The Ottawa Senators are falling out of playoff contention, but there's still a lot of interesting storylines surrounding the Sens. Ross Levitan of Locked On Senators joins us to talk about that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome back to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thanks for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the show a familiar face to Locked On NHL viewers, a familiar voice to listeners, Ross Levitan, co-host of Locked On Senators. And Ross, a little bit of a rough patch here as the Senators are kind of falling out of contention. What's been the cause of the recent slump?
Oh, where do you want to start, Gillen? Appreciate you always having me on Locked On NHL, your team every day. But no, with the Senators, I mean, they're 1-5-1 in their last 7 games. It's been a real tough stretch. Started on a road trip where you lose 5-0 in Chicago. You get off on the wrong side of that. They had a great win in Seattle where they gave up a 3-0 lead, but ultimately got a 5-4 victory, scored in the final 2 minutes, Alex DeBrincat. And you're like, okay, maybe that was an anomaly, the 5-0 loss, because they were coming off a 5-game win streak. Jacob Chychrun was getting in the mix, but then, I mean, it's just been downhill from there. Losses to Vancouver, Calgary, and then finishing the road trip, 6-3 loss in Edmonton. And they came home in 2 tough games, Colorado and Toronto. They lose both of them by a 5-4 score, although the Leafs game was in a shootout. And it all comes down to goaltending at the end of the day. And we're not being too difficult on Matt Sogard. He's being put in a really tough situation right now where we knew Anton Forsberg was out for the year, 2 torn MCLs, 1 on each leg. Awful injury. We wish him the best, successful surgery. But then Cam Talbot went out with an oblique injury. So they're on their 3rd string goalie, and he's the reigning rookie of the month. He had a great February, but it's a lot to ask. The rigors of an NHL schedule, game in, game out, for a guy whose most games played he's ever played since junior is like 30. And with the COVID pause in there, so it's a lot. He's had 11 starts now in such a short period. And the Sens have allowed 7 straight games with 4 or more goals. And you're just frankly not going to win a whole lot when that's the case.
You know, you did mention Jacob Chychrun. How has he been fitting in? What have his contributions been since the trade deadline?
Yeah, you know what? He's been just fine. 4 points in 9 games, but those points all came in 2 different games. He had a goal and an assist on 2 separate occasions. He's still trying to figure out who his partner is, or maybe that's more of a team thing, right? Giving him that consistent partner that he can build chemistry with and find his way. I think what's going to be really exciting about this trade, and why, despite the recent results for the team after going out and trading their 1st-round pick to go get him, it's that he's signed for 2 more years. So you're not saying, oh, this is an awful deal, right? They're going to get rid of him so quick. No, he's going to be a part of the fabric of this team going forward. I mean, he was near tears after his first home game because his grandpa got to be at the game. They've got a lot of deep family ties to the Ottawa and Ottawa Valley area. So I think it's just kind of the beginning of his time here. There's been a little bit of ups and downs, but on many nights, he's led this team in ice time. In his 9 games here, he's averaging 21-33, and come as advertised, great on puck defender, great active stick, jumps into the rush. So I think Sens fans are happy with the contributions and knowing there's more to come as he gets more and more comfortable in town.
There have been some bright spots in Ottawa, even with this recent slump, and it's got to start with Tim Stutzle.
It has to. I mean, Tim Stutzle, Timmy Superstar. We called him that since the day he was drafted, and he is making us look like geniuses. This guy, since January 15th, when he turned 21 years old, when he was able to drink in the United States legally, he's now the 3rd leading point getter in the NHL. In those 27 games, he has been under 2 points in 8 of the games. And the rest, he's either got 2, 3, or 4 points in every single game. It's unreal what he's being able to accomplish here in what is his 3rd season. And to think he's signed for 8 more years at 8.35 is truly remarkable. This is the last year of his entry-level contract. To put it frankly, and we had a timestamp. It was 2 back-to-back games against the Detroit Red Wings where are you going to have meaningful games or are you going to be the team that's on the outside looking in for the last 20? They beat the wheels off of Detroit, no pun intended there, but ever since, so 11 games here. Ottawa's 5-5-1, okay? Not great. Tim Stutzle's got 19 points in those 11 games. He is truly remarkable. He's only 21, like I said, and his deal kicks in next year. So there is so much excitement around this young player, and he fits in on the line with Brady Tkachuk so well because we know Brady, he's a net front presence, but Tim Stutzle's a one-man zone entry. Whenever he gets the puck in his own zone, bang, he's in the offensive zone and he's making things happen. He's the type of player that puts fans in seats, and that's what he's been doing, selling tickets in Ottawa.
Yeah, no, he has really, really stepped up his game. And then another player with a big milestone right ahead of him, possibly Claude Giroux, closing in on 1,000 points. But will he get there this year, or does he have to wait until October?
Well, I'm going to stick with my initial prediction right when Ottawa signed him on July 13th, first day of free agency this past summer, and that's heck yeah. And he needed 77 points to get there. He was well on his way until he's only had 1 assist in his last 4 games, but it came on that game-tying goal against Toronto on Saturday night with 11 seconds left. They tie that game up, send it to overtime. He is such a good hockey player. Like, you hear about him over the years, right? He's one of the leading scorers in the last decade in the NHL, the top power play scorer since 2010 in the NHL. But man, when you get to watch this guy game in and game out, it's truly impressive. The work ethic, he plays the game like a grinder, but then all of a sudden he shows these flashes of skill, shift in, shift out, that just make you believe. Like, I think he's got 4 or 5 more years left in the tank. I know he has 2 years left on his deal right after this one, but I don't think he's going to be out of the game anytime soon. Just the way he plays, it's so much fun to watch. So been a real treat, a part of the leadership group on this team. 67 points in 69 games. He needs 10 more to get to 1,000, and Ottawa's sitting in an opportunity here where they have 13 games left. So I say he does it, Gil. I say he does it.
You talked a little bit about goaltending and obviously injuries playing a big part, but how confident are you in the long-term goaltending situation for the Senators?
Yeah, I'm still confident in Mads Søgaard, the Great Dane, we call him, 6'7". He's got great wingspan, great long legs. He's able to seal off the bottom part of the crease. It's just he needs to work on making himself look bigger in net, which is kind of funny to say for a guy that size, but he's been beat clean on a few looks and he's not getting much help defensively. Like, Brady Tkachuk was the first guy to come to his defense, and the captain just saying after the game, like, it's on us. It's not on the young goalie. We have faith in him. He's the goalie of the future, and he's going to lead us to a Stanley Cup final. That's kind of the way that the captain talked about him, but you can tell he's going through some growing pains, and we know Mads a little bit. He's a recurring guest on Locked On Senators. Great guy, and you can tell he's a very, internalist, if that's the right word, where, I think he really takes it personally when he feels like he's letting the team down when he's letting in these goals, and you can tell his confidence is just shot right now. So I think right now it's a matter of, they just called up Dylan Ferguson, who they just signed 2 weeks ago to an AHL deal, because right when you lose both your NHL guys, everybody shifts up, and Belleville's used 9 different goalies this year. So it's just been a carousel down there. They sign him. He's played well in the AHL, so now he's going to get a chance to back up Mads at least, and maybe he gets his first NHL game at Boston. Wouldn't that be a nice start, to go up against the NHL's best? But yeah, it's real tough. And then they've also got this kid in Finland, not to get too deep into kind of unknown prospects, but Levi Meriläinen led the Liga in shutouts this year with 8, and just had a tremendous year over there. And he's playing with Karpat, and they've developed goalies like Pekka Rinne and Mika Kiprusoff, just to name a couple. So he's coming from a bit of a goalie factory. So the 3rd-round pick in 2020, I think Sens fans have a lot of hope that he could be a part of the future mix in Ottawa.
All right, Ross, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find us on social media at Sens Central. We were pretty active there on Twitter, on Instagram as well, LockedOn.Senators. And just like Locked On Islanders, Locked On NHL, you can find us on your favorite audio podcast platforms and on YouTube as well, Locked On Senators. Always appreciate you, Gil. And I'm I'm rooting for you. I don't know if I'm rooting for the Islanders, but I'm rooting for you that they have a solid finish to the year. I saw Pajot got a goal last night, and we're always following our hashtag sends abroad. So we obviously still have a very strong connection with Jean-Gabriel Pajot, and hope to see him have some success come spring.
Yeah, he had a big game last night, no doubt. Ross, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Likewise.
Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you've got to try a Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And listen to some of these amazing flavors like peanut butter brownie, churro, coconut almond, or my personal favorite, cookies and cream. And look, the macros are outstanding. Each bar averages just 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, but they pack a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now, you could still go to built.com to get these protein bars delivered directly to your home. Or if you want to get a box right away, just head to your local Walmart or Sam's Club, and you can pick them up immediately in person. So it's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Available at built.com or at Walmart and Sam's Club. You can thank me later.